I know some of you probably think it's odd that we weren't doing anything this morning. It's Easter morning, and we can talk about that, but we did our Passover Seder, our foreshadowing of the Last Supper on Thursday night. And this morning we got up and we went to sunrise service, and I hope a lot of you did something similar, but I find that I can't leave you with nothing on Easter. And so I've got a few things I want you to think about. One of them is that we go to these sunrise services and we talk about the dawn broke and it's hallelujah. Someone says he's risen. Someone repeats he's risen indeed. But not to burst anyone's bubble, but if you were part of that group of disciples, of followers of Jesus, last night, Saturday night, was the darkest night in history, except, maybe for the night before. But they didn't wake up this morning, what we call Sunday morning, thinking to themselves, hallelujah, he's risen. They woke up this morning thinking he's dead. It's not the picture that we have, and I know we know better, but think about them. Think about where they were. And the deliverance may have already been available. It may have already taken place, but they didn't know it. The women went there, I presume, in hopes that the guards would roll the stone back, that they'd be able to do more things for his body, because they weren't able to. They had to pull him off the cross and get him prepared in a hurry. And so they came to I suppose, help with the body. And we're told that there are these two men in dazzling raiments. We understand those are angels. And they said to them, why are you looking for the living among the dead? And you remember back when he was 12 years old, and his parents lost track of him, and they looked in Jerusalem for 3 days, and they find him at the temple. And he says, why were you searching for me? Why were you looking around? Didn't you know where I'd be? Wasn't it obvious? It should have been. What were you thinking? And the same thing sort of happens here. These two angels tell the women, what did you think was going to happen? I mean, didn't he tell you what was going to happen? What are you thinking? Why are you searching for him here? And it's an interesting perspective on what was going on that morning, but it wasn't just that morning, because it took time. We're told that Peter hears their story and goes and looks and finds the tomb empty, but he didn't understand. We're told that he didn't understand what was going on. The light dawns but slowly, and it takes time for some of these things to sink in with all of us at different times in our life, at different points in our walk. There are things that don't just soak in automatically. We don't always get it right away, and that's okay. There's a good model for that. It sometimes takes some time. But there's one other thing I want to mention to you. They were frightened. They were mourning. They were holed up in that upper room, and they were scared to come out. The women, I don't know if it was an abundance of courage or an abundance of compassion, but they're the only ones who were willing to come out and go down to the tomb. But they were scared. And But they were scared and they were in mourning. And you think back to that real famous passage we call the Beatitudes, but he tells people, blessed are the mourning. He tells people, blessed are those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. And what's happening here is that there are a whole bunch of the important, wealthy movers and shakers, and they're not in mourning. That morning, they're in their homes, and they're very self-satisfied. They've killed this man, and they're certainly not mourning his passing. Now, if they believed any of it, if they later came to believe, I'm sure they're... Now, if they had believed any of it, or even if they later came to believe, I'm sure their response at that point would not be mourning. It would be, uh-oh, look at what we did. but they're not mourning. And the idea that blessed are those who mourn, for they'll be comforted. We a lot of the time think, well, that's sort of confusing. Who wants to go through that just to be comforted? But if there was ever an absolutely perfect example of what that means, this is it. They were mourning. They had seen the passing, what they thought was the permanent loss of this friend that they thought was their rabbi and they had followed. They didn't really get this, but they were in mourning, and then they're comforted. Keep in mind that those leaders, those important rich people, didn't get the comfort that these people get. And maybe remember that we find ourselves in times of mourning, not knowing that there's an entire plan out there, not knowing that there is a comfort that's already there for us that we just haven't seen yet. He is risen. He's risen indeed. But there's so much about discipleship. There's so much about this walk that we take in that knowledge that we don't always get right away. The light dawns but slowly. Now, we have two people, actually a family of people, that I want you to keep in mind. Now, we have a family that I want you to keep in mind and keep in your prayers. Sherry Tilgen, her fiance David, Jack and Z, who are Sherry's parents, are concerned this morning. David had a valve replacement. He had to go in and have a valve in his heart removed and another one put in. And while they were in there, they found some problems with another valve. And that actually doesn't work too well when you get one of them put in new and the other one is damaged. It would have been very bad had they not found it, but they did, and give some thanks for that. But these are stressful times for us, and these are people that we care about. Keep them in your prayers. I'll keep all of you in my prayers. I hope you have a very good Easter, and I hope we see you again next Sunday as we continue to study. We keep all of you in our prayers. I hope you have a really good Easter. I hope you get a chance to spend it with family or other people that you love. And I hope we see you again next Sunday when we get together and study. Shalom.